everybody here the cool kids, or is everybody here the kids who sometimes feel like they get picked on? All of us feel like we get picked on sometimes. All of us feel like nerds sometimes. But you know, the truth of the matter is, with initiative, with hard work, there's always people around you, and there's a lot more people who will actually lift you up than there will who will put you down. Now, I remember when I used to go to the barber shop all the time, there was a lot of different kids. Now, I was a nerd, okay? And when I say a nerd, I don't mean, you know, like the Urkel nerds. I don't know if you guys are old enough to know about Urkel. Urkel was this, wasn't like that. But I was a guy who studied a lot, big glasses. You know, I couldn't see. Big glasses before I got contact lenses, braces, and all that. But all the guys who were the cool guys always respected me just because I was comfortable with who I was. They said, what do you want to do? I said, I always wanted to be a doctor. I was studying. I was doing this. I was doing that. And everybody from the coolest guy in school was always friends with me just because they respected who I was, because I knew who I was. And the difference also is I also hung out with people kind of like me. Now, what does that mean? That means people who have the same goals as I did. I think that it's really hard in life because you have all these pressures, right, to be in your peer group and to be, you know, hanging out with a certain group of people. It's important to surround yourself with people with goals like you. You know, what are some of our goals? Like when I ask most high school kids, I say, what are your goals? Whose goal is to make money? I don't know, what's a lot of money? What's a lot of money? Like, how much money do you want to make? What's a million, right? Does that make you happy?
I mean, I hope so.
You hope so, right? 1 million, 2 million, all right. So, you know, they've done actual studies on this. They looked at happiness, and they look at across all races, right? They look across all states. And so happiness actually does correlate with money, with how much money you make. But do you know how much money that you make, and then afterwards, if you make more than that, you're not any happier? $70,000. So across the country, $70,000. In California, it's about $90,000 because the cost of living here is higher. But that means that making more than that does not actually make you happy. But up to that point, that can make you happy. Okay, that can make you happy. But the question is, what above that, what can make people happy? So in terms of money, now the reason you want to make millions is what do you want to do with the money? I'll ask you because I like when people are, you know, raise their hand. I like interacting. So what do you want to do with 3 million? Like, what would you do?
Buy a house.
Yeah, right? So you buy the house, take care of your family. What do you want to do? Help your family, right? Help your families. You got to invest it. Okay, so you can make more money. You can make more money, all right? And make a name for yourself, okay? So all those things are, you know, all those things are great. I mean, and that's really the bottom line is that, you know, we see a lot, usually it starts out with, you know, you want to buy the house, you want to buy the car, but trust me, you can only drive so much, your house can only be so big, right? And then it comes about your family, taking care of your family, making a name for yourself, and all that. And that all goes toward the pride that we feel, right? Now, how do we get there? Now, when I usually say, you know, what do people want to be? I got any athletes in the house? Anybody wants to go on to play, thinks they can play professional ball? You got some people, the aspirations, right? So you want to hear, and you know what? That's also what I wanted to do. I also wanted to be a professional, you know, tennis player, okay? Now, when you look at all professional athletes, right, and I actually know a lot of them, take care of a lot of them, the most interesting stat was there are 1,400 black players in the NBA and the NFL, okay, in this whole country. There are 2,000 black surgeons in America. How many people think that they can be the best surgeon, right? So that's one, and there was 12 of you guys who raised your hand and said, I think that they can play professional ball. You actually have a better chance of being a surgeon than you do going and playing professional ball. But why don't we believe that? Why don't you think you can do that? Because you can. You can do that also, and you actually have a better chance of doing that. And so that stat, the reason that's important is not to, you know, give up on that other dream, but you got to have both things covered. You got to have your body and your mind covered, because in this world, in the long run, that's what ultimately matters. Okay, I have two good friends who play in the NFL. All right, and this is what the NFL, they make a lot of money. If you get hurt within the first 3 years, right? I'm sorry, you have to play 4 years to have lifetime medical insurance. The average salary of somebody after they get cut from the NFL goes down to about $30,000 a year, okay? Of hard work, $30,000 a year, like manual hard work, okay? In order for you to get your lifetime medical insurance, you have to play 4 years in the NFL. The average NFL player gets cut in 2.5 years. Okay, so that's that. Even when you make it to that level, you still have to be ready to get your mind right, because more likely than not, you're still going to have to use that. All right, and so the key, I think, is often when you look around you, you know, other than your friends, a lot of times, a lot of us don't have family members that we can look at and want to be like. You know, we have other people in the community. I was really blessed, man. I had a father. This is my father over here. My dad grew up in Compton, single mom. Okay, my grandmother is 92 years old. My grandmother was born, obviously couldn't vote, born in Tennessee. Okay, her great grandmother, slave. Okay, my grandmother still took my dad, brought him to Compton by herself. Okay, raised him by herself. So my dad ended up going to Centennial High School. He puts himself through school. Started working in the mailroom at the Department of Social Services. So that's like the welfare office, the children's services offices. Okay, he starts in the mailroom making the lowest you can make, and then he ends up, when he retires, working his way through school, became the head of the Department of Social Services with 20,000 employees. Okay, so the fact of the matter is, this is, you know, we all have hard situations, we all have hard things in life that we have to look around and try to make the best of. Now, how did he do it? How does anybody do it, right? Now, let me tell you another story. My wife. So my wife, her dad, and my wife was actually born in India. She was raised in Africa, okay? Her dad came to America, left her in Africa, came to America. He was an engineer in Africa and a teacher. He came to America and delivered newspapers and worked at Carl's Jr., okay, for 2 years, right? Dealing with people looking at him, people laughing at him, all kinds of, this guy's an engineer, he's a doctor. But he actually came to this country, and he used to always say, it's kind of like that Antoine Fisher story, that sometimes you do what you have to do to get to do what you want to do. He knew that working at Carl's Jr. in America was better than being an engineer in India and Africa. And he wanted his kids to grow up here. Now, there's a lot of people here who look like that they could be immigrants. We're all immigrants, but there's some people here who look like they could be recent immigrants. And parents have made huge sacrifices for you to be here. All of our parents sacrificed. You know, I'm a parent now, and a lot of times, you know, I want to go out with my friends and all that, but even that little bit is a sacrifice. You know, so we kind of owe it to our parents, we owe it to our culture to take care of this opportunity. I've done a lot of international travel, and you know, kids don't really get to go to school like this. And it's hard for people to understand that. Like, we just expect it. Sometimes we think it's a drag, right? We're like, oh God, I got to wake up and go to school. So there's a project in India where kids weren't going to school because at the age of 9, 80% of them had to get a job to help support their family, okay? So what they started was a food program because they weren't eating. So the only way to get kids to go to school there is because there's food there. That's the only meal they'll get all day. But guess what? They started serving food, people started going, and now they're actually able to take advantage. When they come to this country, they look at us. And when I say us, I say they look at Americans. And they're like, Americans are lazy. And we're like, what are you talking about? What do you mean by that? You know, we all work hard, we come from this and that. They're saying that you get to go to school for free and people don't go to school. All you have to do is study. Most of us don't have to work. You know, a lot of us get jobs, and I had a job in high school too, but I'm talking about up to this point. Imagine having to work at age 8, like you have to. You know, here in this country, you have to go to school. It's actually legally you have to go to school. It's the opposite. But it's hard for us to understand that because we think that that's how everywhere else in the world is. But this is actually a blessing. It's actually a blessing that you guys get to go to school, get to hang out with your friends, and you get to have adults who sacrifice their lives, basically, to come here and teach you and educate you so that you can build for the future. And I think it's hard for all of us to actually appreciate that unless we see the other side of that. And I think it's also important to look around and realize that these people actually do care about you. You know, a lot of people say, well, I don't have a dad, I don't have a mom, but you have somebody who cares about you, like, you know, Ms. Chang, like Charlie Moorhead. So Charlie is a friend of my dad's, and he mentors kids here. And you know why he does it? Because he wants to give back. I mentor kids also because it makes me happy to know that even talking to you, even if only like 2 people in here listen to me, this whole thing, even though it seems like a lot of you guys, and most of you guys are, it really makes me feel good to know that then you'll impart something to one of your friends. And then eventually when you have kids, you'll impart something. It's always important to realize, I think, that when you show effort in anything you do, I promise you, people will see that and you will be able to find somebody who will be able to take you under their wing or just to be able to give you guys that motivation to know that you can do it. Because I think that's the hardest thing. I think the hardest thing is when you feel like you're by yourself. if you feel like you're toiling by yourself, or people are laughing at you because you have to study and they get to hang out, and you feel like you're all by yourself, it's hard not to want to just fit in with whoever's around you. It's hard we all like to think we want to be individuals, but in reality, we kind of do want acceptance. And it's hard, and so one of the biggest things is to try to find people who have the similar goals like you do, so that you can achieve.